Good day, everybody. It's my pleasure to welcome each of you for this meeting today. I'm planning to tackle through the GL Kinetic postings available to track our issues that's happening everyday basis. I'm planning to use a combination of a slideshow and a live system demonstration for this exercise today. First of all, let's go through quickly a safe harbor statement for legality purposes. I'll allow you all a minute or so to read through. Thank you. Sorry. Next, a little bit about Precise Business Solutions. We have over 50 staff members globally, while most of our team is based in Perth and working across Australia. Precise has been an ERP solutions provider for 30 years. We are an Epicor Premium partner and have won the International Partner of the Year award 5 times. Precise has a team of certified consultants and software developers for our products, namely for ARM, which is Advanced Requisition Management, APM, Advanced Project Management, and POS stands for Point of Sale Systems. Next, a little bit about myself. Most of you all know me already. I'm Sam Mendis, and I'm the Principal Consultant at Precise Business Solutions. I have experience in multiple ERP platforms, and I have been with Precise for over 5 years. In today's agenda, I will have a look at the GL transaction types, GL book, review journal, and PE log viewer. If anyone's wondering what P stands for, that's for the posting engine, group edit listing reports, and I have selected the AP invoice miscellaneous GL transaction type for today's session. We'll also have a look at the GL posting hierarchies for AP invoice transactions. GL transaction types are corresponding to posting the GL transaction within various modules of Epicor application. These transactions are available across modules such as accounts payable, accounts receivable, assets, etc. These transaction types are linked with the Kinetic posting engine via posting rules that allows various transaction hierarchies to be selected during the posting process, which we will have a look at shortly. This will also determine the respective GL accounts linked with this type of transactions. As far as I'm concerned, I'm assuming that your system has only unmodified versions of posting rules. And then I'm going through the accounts payable invoice processing just to demonstrate what's happening with the postings. Let's have a quick look at the GL book. The GL book defines the fiscal books of a specific company. This book defines the settings required to post general ledger accounts and financial statements. These settings include the book's currency, chart of accounts, fiscal year, and so forth. As you can see, the system I'll be using today has got multiple books, and with this they can actually report the same financial information in multiple ways. As you can see, the main book is ticked as a default book that will be used for posting purposes. PE log viewer. One can use the PE log viewer to open log information on the client, and access to the setting is via the GL transaction posting program. I'll show you in the next slide. So if you pick up the AP invoice, for example, in this case, AP invoice transactions got the posting rule underneath it. So you can actually tick the flag for logging in here, the square highlighted. And once you tick it, you can actually start logging information. And when you untick it, it will turn off the logging. With this, menu option, you can clear the log files, export the log files, or import the log files. One very important thing you need to remember using the plog viewer is once you activate this logging, it will start logging every step of your transaction in the database. That may result in quite large files, and indirectly it will affect your performance in the long run. So you just have to make sure you just use this functionality only to tackle any posting errors you're going through, or if you're customizing any posting rules, just to manage your financials. Let's look at the GL controls. The GL control determines what the general ledger rules for transaction posting. This consists of a GL control type and a GL control code. GL control type refers to what sort of a type. Is it an AP, is it an AR, is it a job costing, is it an inventory? And the control code is what are the actual postings related to that control type. So here I have sort of a listed a couple of AP and miscellaneous supplier GL controls for reference. The system I'll be using today for the demonstration purpose, it has a standard setup in this company configuration. So when we set up an Epicor company, we need to set up certain GL defaults which are mandatory. So that means if there are no other overriding postings, the system will look at these defaults and then complete the posting hierarchy. So for my exercise purposes, these are the GL controls I'll be using today. Earlier I mentioned about the posting hierarchy. So let's look at the posting hierarchy for an AP miscellaneous invoice. So according to this, the accounts payable posting will first look at the AP account context if we have defined a control account setting against the individual supplier, and if not, it will look at the company configuration, which the screen I showed you before. And for the expense line for the miscellaneous invoice, it will first look at if you are using a specific part, and there's an expense account associated with the part, or there's a part class linked with the part that's got a separate GL control, or the supplier specifically has its own expense accounts. And the next step is the AP account context that I showed before is specific to the supplier, meaning is supplier using a specific debtors control account or an expense account. So sorry, creditors control account and an expense account. And then the last step would be the company configuration setting I just showed you in the previous slide. This one is, again, I'll revisit that. This is the setting that we'll be using initially in terms of AP and expense context. So if I want to override the AP and expense context for a supplier specifically, what you do is you define the GL control on the supplier level. When you do this, this will override the settings in company configuration, and then look at this setting just to do the posting. Just to override the expense account context in the AP context, what you can do is in the second line, as you can see, I have attached a second line for supplier for miscellaneous part. So what this will do is when we post, it will look at the trade payables using the AP account context, and then it will look at the expense context from the supplier GL control. The part. So if you set up a GL control against the part, as in the example MISC part, GL control will override what's defined on the supply expense. And then this will override the part, because what we are saying is instead of setting up in the part, we are saying in the part class, we are defining the GL control, and the bottom right screen, it says part class GL control is MISC part. So when we do an invoice line, picking up a part, it look at the part class and then do the postings based on the part class GL control. Let's look at an invoice now. So I'm going to create an AP invoice. AP invoice has a group header, invoice group header, and an apply date. I'm sure you will know this at the moment. Then the invoice header. Invoice header will consist of the supplier, main information, invoice number, amount, and the invoice date. So we save all that information, save the record, and we go to the invoice line. It's a miscellaneous invoice line. You pick up the line details and put the amount, save the record. And let's look at the edit listing, which is the sort of a summarization of what it's going to look like once we post it. So this is called the invoice group edit list. Here we have information on the invoice on the top side of the report. The bottom side is what I'm more focused on today, is the GL account recap. So here it shows it's going to post to accounts payable, the credit for 2,000, and account expense account, the debit of 6,005. So just to understand how we can tackle this in the PE log. So we go into the PE log viewer, and then open up the relevant invoice detail. On the PE log header, you can actually see the top left screen that I've highlighted, the square. It's got the invoice group, AP invoice, AP INVGRP1, who is supplier related to this, tracking, invoice number, and the apply date. And that's the header information. And on the right side, I have expanded onto the invoice header, which carries the payable side. And the next in the bottom is the expense line. Let me just take you through a little bit more closer look to the payable side. The payables GL hierarchy build, as you can see, the log viewer is saying, I'm looking at the AP invoice details, AP GL control for AP account, and it's looking at the book main. And on the bottom line, it says journal code successfully retrieved the purchase journal with the GL control AP TD, which was my default company GL control code, if you all remember. And on the line level, you can see it's actually got 5 lines in there, 4 lines in there. But the first line, it says getting account from the GL control part. It's unable to find because we haven't defined a part GL control. And the second one is a part class. It says unable to find the part class. Third one is unable to find the supply because we haven't defined expense account or supply level. But it completes the posting on the 4th level. It says, I managed to find an AP account in the context of AP account for the expense, and the account is successfully retrieved 6,005.0000 with APDD. So that's what the log shows you, how it rebuilt the GL account structure hierarchy. And this is GL account recap, as you can see, 2,000 and 6,005. And this is the GL control setting in the company for your reference. So the bottom screen is the GL recap from the edit listing. I put a screenshot there. The top is the GL control within the company. It says its expense is 6,005, payables is 2,000. And this is the setting I'm just revisiting this again, just to refresh your memory on this one. So now let me demonstrate this in the application, what I've just gone through. I'm using the Browser Kinetic client for this exercise. So GL transaction type. So this is where I showed you what are GL transaction type available. These are all GL transaction types, post different postings. If I look into the AP invoice, I flagged the logging there. So that's all keep logging information. So let's do an AP invoice. Create a new group. I'll set today's date. Save my header record. Add the new invoice. Go and pick a supplier. Invoice number. $2,500 with the invoice date of today's date. So I'm going to save the header. Header is saved. And let's add the invoice line. Miscellaneous billing line. Go into the line. I'm going to just say it's a miscellaneous billing line. Extended amount is 2,500. I save the record and I run the edit listing. Wait for a minute. Perfect. So this is the edit listing report. It shows you the invoice details on the top, and the bottom it shows GL recap. As we remember, our GL accounts are 2000 and 6005 accounts payable and default expense account. So now I just want to take you through to the PE log viewer to actually understand how the posting got completed. So go in here, you can actually see there are two logs in here, one for the GL control and one for the edit listing. So if you want to look at the GL control hierarchy build, you go to the GL control pre-post type of PE log, click on here. So this will actually take you to the details of the log viewer. So already says it's a valid log. That means postings are valid. So we can expand on the header line. You can see on the header line, it actually has our AP invoice group, 130325, and it's the date where it is sort of we sort of posted it. And if you expand it, you have the supply code and the invoice number as well. So now we expand it, drill down a little bit more further. You can see this is the AP invoice header line. So if I go in here, and this is my book, main book, and let's go into more detail. And it says here, getting the GL details. So if I click here, it says here, the font is a little bit too light. Hopefully you can read this. The journal code successfully retrieved, purchase journal for PJ, GL control code APTD, which is from our company defaults. So this is the header GL control one. And let's go to the line, which is the expense line. Expand that one. Again, the main book. So default expense GL control. If you click in here, and it is a calculated expensing amount is a posting rule. As you can see here, these are the hierarchy it's looking at. It says unable to get the account from the part level, unable to get the account from the part class level, unable to get the account from the supply level, but finally managed to get the account successfully retrieved 6005 from the GL control APDT under the entity means the company code. So that's how you read the log. And let's just tweak this a little bit. So if I go back to my invoice, I'm going to delete this invoice and also delete this group. Let's create a new group. And we add a new invoice. I'm going to use my favorite supply again. $1,500. Same day. And I'm going to add the new miscellaneous invoice line. Here, what I'm going to do, instead of actually typing it across, I'm going to pick a part that we have defined as an uninventory part in the system. Then I'm going to put the extended amount. Save my record, and let's run the edit listing for this invoice now. Perfect. So this is our old report. It's going to 6005. Now some new report shows the accounts payable is okay, the same account, but the expense is rerouted to the default expense from the part class. The description says here. I just put it to distinguish so you can clearly see that. So now let's look at the PE log viewer to understand how that happened. So we want to look at the GL control. So let's go and look at the GL control log. It's again valid. So we are not looking at the AP invoice header line because header line didn't change. I'll quickly take you through to the expense line. As you can see, there are only 2 steps now here. There were 4 before. So if we look at the first step, part, it didn't find from the part level, but then it completed successfully 6002 GL control code MISC part from the part. So let me take you through very quickly. So if I look at the part, so I've got a part class here assigned to the part called miscellaneous part. And if I drill down to the part class entry, let's go to GL control assigned with the part class called miscellaneous MISC part. So I can drill down further into GL control code entry to identify how we got this posting. And when we go into the GL control code setup, because we have multiple books, it displays controls for each book. But because our book is main book, I'll pick the main book here. And you can see here, inventory expense accounts defined is 6002. And that's the reason why it's picked 6002, overriding what's in the default setup. So that's how you can override and manipulate your postings to understand how you want to structure your financials. Let's close these reports. Let me go back to the presentation again. Let's look at the review journal now. So the review journal is used to revalidate, adjust any posting issues, specifically locating errors and debugging custom posting rules. So if you ever develop a custom posting rule, you will always have to use a review journal in conjunction with the PE log viewer to understand, have I updated the posting rule correctly? Is it driving the right accounts in the right area? Let's go and do another AP invoice. So invoice header again with the apply date. We pick the supplier and the invoice number, amount, date, pick the invoice header. In the invoice line, exactly the same way we did last time. We go through and enter the line details. And then once you actually post an AP invoice, generally you would see it disappearing from your AP invoice group screen. But in this case, when I go and have a look, this group still there, it says reviewing. So reviewing means it's actually sitting in an intermediate posting level before posting into the GL actually, because there are either errors or something needs to be checked and fixed first. So let's have a look at the review journal next. So when you log into the review journal UI, you will see what's already sort of sitting there. So you can see there's one from history last year. It's not been fixed. Somebody has done something but not fixed. But the today's one is 149. This is the journal number with the apply date of today's date, and its source module is AP, and user ID is my user ID from Epicor. So this way you can actually identify which journal I'm looking at to fix, because practically in a real world scenario you will have multiple people using multiple modules, all sort of different transactions. So once you drill down to the review journal, you can actually run a review journal report which shows you the transaction is out of balance and it's only picking up the expense account, but we don't have our GL account available for accounts payable. So if you look at the P log viewer in this case, straight away you can see the status is invalid with the top square. And then there's exclamation mark on the header level as well. So we can drill down into the header level until we go to the AP invoice header. So it's the error is actually you can identify using a exclamation mark and a triangle. It is clearly sitting on the invoice header. We drill down and we can see it says unable to find the account for APTD. It's meaning it's like it's found the GL control code, but it's not picking up the GL account. So then we can troubleshoot further from there. So what we do is then we can go to that APTD GL control code and see what's going on. And you can see clearly somebody's missed out putting up the payable account in there when they are setting up the GL control code. We go back and fix it, update the correct account in there. Happy days. Group listing works fine. We can see the accounts coming up and then go back to the P log viewer. It's all valid and it's actually found the GL posting properly. So let's take this through in the system. So before going to AP invoice, let me close all these. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick my favorite supplier and I'm going to say, all right, we've decided to have a separate account GL context for my this supplier rather than using the company default. So I'll go and say Seaside Steel GL control. I'll add a GL control for my supplier to say, all right, let's override the company defaults. I'm going to say I'm going to have separate AP account. And then my control code is not the standard default trade payables. I'm going to say AP other is my GL control code from now onwards. We save that and we go and do an AP invoice entry to the supply again. So I'm going to say number 2. Apply date is the same date and I'm going to add a new invoice. I'm going to run out of invoice numbers here. 2,500. It's done. Now I'm going to add a new line. Selene is billing. I'm going to save this. Right. So I've done this and I know that I've set up the GL control code for the supply. So I'm going to post this straight away. Yep. So we think the batch group is posted, but when I go and have a look, I'm seeing this is my second batch. It is still not posted, and it says reviewing. So for some reason, even though we set up the GL control, we put it in the supply account, we are trying to post something, it's not working. So now what we'll do is we'll go to the P log viewer. First of all, we'll go to the review journal and then have a look at what it looks like in the review journal. You can see here, this is the 153, today's date, source module is AP, my user ID is Epicor. So I drill down to this and it says the status, it says it has errors, and you can click on the error line here and it says transaction does not balance, and we can clearly see on the lines here there's only one line, it's missing the second line. So what we can do is here we can run print preview journal report. Wait for it for a minute. Yeah, clearly it says here. Yep. So I have managed to find out the expense account, but I haven't found the other side. So we need to now figure out sorry, what's missing. So let's go back to our PE log viewer, which is what's going to rescue us this time. And if I look at the GL control here, second header information, my group, supply, and the invoice number, all that is there. Just give me a second. I think that one. Yeah, it says status invalid. And if I go in here, you can see the exclamation mark and the triangle. And you can see when you expand on the main book, it's actually saying in here, yeah, and you click in here, it says calculate the transaction line, and then it says getting account from GL. It says unable to get the GL account control APOT. So we set up our new GL control called APOT, and it's saying it's unable to get the account from the APOT GL control code. So let's go and have a look at the APOT GL control code. AP account, APOT is my GL control code, and my book is main book. There you go. So my payables account is missing. So even though we set up the GL control codes, somebody fill up everything else, but they missed out on the supply account. So I'm going to say, this is my new supply code for this purposes, not 2000, accounts payable, AP account supplier. And then now if I go back to my AP invoice entry, I'm going to rerun the edit listing. You can see it's now clearly picking up 2010 and then 6004 as account. And if I now go to P log viewer, look at the most recent edit listing. You can see it's valid. It's figured it out. It's all valid. It's all good. Now that means we can actually go to my AP invoice entry. Before doing that, actually, you need to go to the review journal. You can actually go and cancel the review journal, because at the what happens is, I'll take you back one step. What happens is this AP invoice is currently locked. We can't post it because it's reviewing. What we can do is we can go and cancel the review journal, and then this becomes status is all good, active to post. Then we can simply post, and it will post to our GL from the subledger. So that concludes the presentation and the demo. And let's have a look at the Q&A if there are any questions. I think my bad. I should have mentioned, if you have any questions, please enter that in the Q&A section of this chat. So we can see what we can help you guys out with today.
Well, one question here for you, Sam. In the PE log viewer, can you search for a particular transaction?
When you say a particular transaction, if it is something that they are looking at already posted and they haven't updated the PE log viewer before doing that, then you can't see it. But if you actually update the PE log viewer, little checkbox, and then you do the transaction, you can actually go down to the length that I went down. So it actually will show you how the hierarchy is built, and it will go into the individual account. That's all you can see. Nothing in more detail other than what is the GL account, how much is the amount, and then how much is the both debits and credit. Let me quickly take you through. I think I'll show you. I only showed you the PE log viewer for the GL control. So if I look at the edit listing for this one, you can actually see there are two lines. So first line is the AP invoice line. And then if you go in here, you can actually see creating the transaction in here. And you can see the details of 2010 debit falls means it's a credit. We're looking at the book here for 2,500 USD. And for the expense side, if I drill down, creating the expense, this shows you the details of the expense. So GL control code mode shows you the GL control code structure, and edit mode or the post mode, edit listing mode or the post mode will show you the transactions. Hope that answers the question.
Right. Any other questions? Nothing further coming through, Sam. Thanks very much. Just for the remainder of the audience, we're currently offering value exchange workshops for existing customers, where our team can come out and sit down and review your business processes, your pain points, and then come up with better solutions for your business. So reach out to myself at Precise if you're interested in that.
Very well then. I would like to thank each one of you who showed up today. Yeah, please reach out, as Graham mentioned, for any other assistance on how to tackle these posting issues. And we look forward to your presence in our next session on financial reporting, hosted by our reporting expert, Marcus. And you guys have a great day. Thank you very much.